Hello and welcome. These are horse racing selections for Saturday, the 30th of November. I am Flatcap Callum and I am hoping you are all very, very well. Well, it's been a bit of a quiet one this week, isn't it? We're only on video 3 and it's Saturday. And it is it's mild milestone video because this officially of actual full videos is number 700. Um, when did I think when I started I'd make 700 videos on YouTube? No, I did not. But we'll do a little bit of a we'll do a bit of reminisce. We'll do that a little bit later after all the horses. So as far as Saturday goes, I've got two bets. I've got a Yankee and I've got some combination doubles. There's only 4 meetings on. Because the all-weather's not back till Monday, and I think Banger on Thee was supposed to be on, but I mean, I probably wouldn't have gone there anyway. So I've just got 4 horses, all in the UK. I haven't picked out anything at Fairy House, and yeah, that's where I'm at. So £16 outlay. So I've got to do the review of Thursday. It was Thursday. Review of Thursday. We didn't do anything Friday. I didn't like anything at all. It's just a bit of a strange for Friday for me, but not even at Dundalk. Nothing. So, we've got the review of Thursday, then we'll get into Saturday's bets, then we'll do tips the league, and then we might do a little bit of reminisce. And I may be putting out, what do you call it? A Cheltenham Festival horse. I might gonna put one out, is what I've decided. Just got to find out. Just check where it's gone now. Yeah, fine. Yeah, okay, all right. So review of Thursday. We had a good day, remarkably enough. We actually made a little bit of profit. It was £8.50 on, £34.40 back. So £25.90 profit. Some will have done better than that, definitely. That's where we were. 80s was the fair price, as I said. There was quite a few that could have got 100s on that one. And Imperial Joe, 16s was the fair price. There's be quite a few that have got 18s. I think it was 365. I think it was 365 where you could have got 125 maybe, or 80s and 25, something like that. The last one was a bit of a disappointment, but yeah, that basically did what I'd hoped it was. I think it said it was the 4th best horse. One of the other top 3 got pulled out as a non-runner. And it was clearly the 3rd best horse. So it's great when it actually it happens how you imagine, because plenty of times it doesn't, does it? And I was happy with that because that snuck in. It got well back. So both of these for Channel were 25p Rule 4 deductions. But yeah, happy enough with the return. So I think we're 25 up for the week. I think last day of the month is today, this Saturday, or Friday night if you're watching it early. But last day of the month, and I think last time I checked it, about 15 quid down for the month. So we need to basically double our money on Saturday to come out ahead for November. If we don't, the max we should be down is like 31 quid, which is clearly not what we want. There have been worse months. That would be what we would say. Right. So 4 horses. The talk of this week's been about zebras. So zebras, for those of you who've not watched the previous videos, this week's basically a new code word I've come up with for horses that no one else would back because they look ridiculous. And the 2 videos we've done this week, the first leg horse, which has been the biggest price horse, albeit zebras, so it's 66 and 80s, have indeed come 3rd place. So the question I'm sure everybody wants to know is, am I going to go 3 days in a row with a big price zebra in the first leg? The answer is, I've got a zebra. Whether it is a zebra, I don't know. Can we hit a hat trick? I think it's quite unlikely, but I'm certainly very happy with the zebra I found. That's what I'll tell you. So here is the main bet. Get my paper right. So 11.42 Rock Vale. Very keen on this horse. Absolutely up there with the standard of the previous 2 we've had this week. Rock Vale. 9 runner novice race. And yeah, if you go through the race, there's a favourite, it's a Ben Pauling favourites, odds on, looks to be the right horse. Then the second horse is a Kim Bailey horse coming off a big layoff for Hurdle's debut. So that's got to have a question mark over it. Could be decent, but it has a question mark. It's over 400 days since it's run. And then the third favourite that's been backed in the night before is the one that's come from bumpers and been very, very average in bumpers. That's the third best. And then you've got 6 others that have all run over hurdles, Rockvale being one of them. I make it definitely the one with the best piece of form. So as hurdle form goes, it's second best in the race. I make it in terms of, I'd actually have it as second best horse in the race. If the Kim Bailey horse turns out to be decent, then yeah, but I the layoff would be enough to put me off on that one. So I've actually got it on my ratings. It's 100 to 1, but I'm saying it's second best horse on paper. So why do I say that? It's run 2 hurdle runs. The question mark, and I think which adds to the price on this one, is last time the stewards had a look at it. It's only run twice over jumps. The stewards had a look last time, and because it clearly was way off where it should have been, and nothing much was doing in the steward's room, but the horse was absolutely subsequently found to be partially lame. That would explain it. So you need to make sure that we want to make sure the horse is right and better. So that is a question mark on the horse. But on the form of its first run, it's got the best hurdles form. Ground looks fine. It's 2 miles again, and nothing else looks like it's potentially going to be the biggest trier in the world. Alan Johns is back on it. He rode it the first time over hurdles. It was Daryl Jacob, I think, second time over hurdles. So happier with Alan Johns being the original rider. It's one of them races where the winner looks nailed on. The Kim Bailey horse, on paper, historically should be good enough, you would think. But price tags aren't everything. Something in the race has got to come second or third, and it's 14 to 1 the field from third favourite onwards. So Rockvale 100 to 1. It's been the drifter in the night before, which I'm perfectly happy with. So Rockvale 3-star 100 to 1. That's the zebra for the day. 210 Newcastle Colonel Mustard. This also comes out as 3 stars. So the top 2 are both 3-star on my ratings. It's the fighting fifth. It's Mystical Power versus Sagino. They look to have the race between them. I make Colonel Mustard absolutely clear third best on form. There's a couple in there clearly that are more progressive. Colonel Mustard super exposed, but I really don't mind in the context of this race, because anything else on my ratings has got to be at least £5 better than what they've already shown, which is absolutely possible, but doesn't make Colonel Mustard a 40 to 1 shot, which for a horse that runs pretty consistent over most different grounds. So I think it's a good bet for third place in that race. Behind Mystical Power and Sagino, and you can get 40s in about 4 different bookmakers, so that's pretty broadly 100 to 1. I think it's 365, Paddy, Hills and Betfair at the time making this video might be 40s on Colonel Mustard. What we absolutely don't want there is a non-runner. If one of the others, other than Sagino or Mystical Power, is a non-runner, that bet is a bet that I would probably not take. Well, I wouldn't take it in 2 places. So if there's only a 7 runner, but if the non-horses come out by the time they're making this bet, I wouldn't be keen on that horse, and it certainly wouldn't make it into this bet. So I'm just flagging that for anyone who's late if there was a non-runner in the race, because we've got 8 runners scheduled. I've got 2 races at Newbury that I've battled with and I've left off entirely, and then I've got these 2 last races. The sort of the 3 mile, one's a 3 mile chase and one's a 3 mile 2 chase, because it's what I would certainly call the Hennessy, but it's now the Coral Gold Cup. So yeah, and these are the ones I've got the combo doubles in too. So 3 o'clock Newbury, Iron Bridge I think is a decent price. It's backed in. I mean, it was a really good price. You could have got 33s I think in places. Backed in now somewhere between 16s to 25 in different places. I think 20s is the fair enough price for it at the moment to put in this bet. From an ownership point of view, it's the Hemmings. So the late Trevor Hemmings used to love running horses in this race, won it multiple times. So the colours are familiar on the podium in this one. Second season novice, and I think basically people will have it down as a bit of too much of a stayer for this race, but it's run decent races over sort of 3 to 3-2. I think ground's good. And yeah, just because there's some others sort of less exposed, I think it's pushed the price up of this one artificially, when I think it's a really decent bet. So Iron Bridge is in. I have to say though that there's a couple of others that we'll get to in the combo double. So it was best of the three in the end, but I've had some debate over the last 24 hours about this race. And then 320 is a similar gig. Kinondu Queto, 28 to 1, 33s in quite a few bookies. I think the price is wrong on that. So last time out, it pulled up at Cheltenham, and maybe it was that it didn't like Cheltenham. It usually runs over northern tracks. And I think it's an interesting horse because it basically hasn't run in the winter before. And I don't necessarily think it's because it's a summer horse. It's because it's this absolute good ground merchant. It wants good ground. So it's rare at this time of the year in a northern track to be getting decent ground like you got in Newcastle. So I'm taking a chance. It's not gone over the top. And when I say over the top, that's sort of like, racing punditry speak. But basically, it's got to the end of its season and it needs to be put away for the winter. So it's sort of like it's beyond its peak. So it was running really consistently well last season. Then over this summer, it had a couple of blips. But good ground, 3 miles, is a really, really handicapped well on form. It's the question mark about, was last time because its seasons should be done, or is it just because that was Cheltenham and actually back on some decent ground up north? Will it run a nice race? That's in there 1 star. So it's a bit of a dreamy bet really, isn't it, from prices? So 25p each way Yankee, 75p each way singles on the bottom 2, and we're going £1 each way singles and an additional 25p each way double on Rock Vale and Colonel Mustard. Sky are best for places, not for prices. If you're doing Sky, the risk you have to take is that you might be better off. You'll be worse off for prices. So you might want to risk certainly on those three. Actually, if you're doing with Sky, if you've got hundreds on Sky on that one, I'd probably say take the SP if you want to try and get the extra places on these two races. 365 are the best bookie for prices at the time of making this video. 13 quid. And then the combo bet, I've done this. So we've basically got the 3 o'clock Newbury, so the Coral Gold Cup, Iron Bridge, and then remastered, running the race 3 times, mixed bag, but absolute got potential. And it was running a decent enough race in the Badger Beer. So I think last year it wasn't quite right, that horse, and this year although it's aging, they've got it definitely back to a better place than it was last year. So I think it's worth chancing for a top 4 place. Unlikely winner. And Sam Brown, absolutely super exposed, too old to win the race, a lot of people would tell you. What I'm saying is it runs its heart out more or less every time it goes, and it can run a decent enough race to get in the frame in the top 4 in a race like that off that handicap mark. That's how I read it. Yes, there's some unexposed horses. It's very, very unlikely to win because it would need to probably show more than it's ever shown, which is unlikely, clearly, at the age of the horses. But I think it's got potential to be good enough to be top 4. So that's in. And then 320, Kiondo Queto 28. And then Blackjack Magic. It's got a really good reappearance record. It's handicapped well. And just from a prices point of view, I've gone on Kinondu Queto. Blackjack Magic, you could have got a slightly better price even if you looked at it last night. So I'm happier with the price on Kinondu Queto. So it's 6 times 25p each way double. So you put them all in the bet slip. 6 possible combinations of doubles. £3 is your bet. No singles on anything here, and I'm not starred it because they're not in the main bet. Sky best because you get 5 places on both. Most bookies are 4. 365 best for prices. That's that. All right. Then we get into Tipster League. For Tipster League for this Saturday, we'll come to. We do need to do the result of last week's Tipster League because I didn't do a Thursday night video, so it is here. So well done to John Hourahan. John Hourahan, all the way from Spain, 220 quid. You were top of the pops, and then we get a 4-way tie for second. Ali Akbar, Des Gibbons, Graham, and Nicholas Hambley, all 60 quid. Stephen Taylor on 30, Simon Johns 28, and then we had Daniel on 27.50, June on 26.80 if I read my writing, and then a little bit of a drop off, but the two, it's top 11 because 11 made profit. So John got in there with 170, and well done, Lee. You got your name in lights for £1.25. because I just thought it was a bit harsh to leave off the 11th person. 59 played last week, 11 won, 1 broke even, 47 lost. So what does that mean? It means for the first time since January, we got a new leader. Des Gibbons has bumped himself above Shosman to take the lead in the Tipster League. So Des Gibbons is now sat on 355.90, third overall for November, with this being the last Saturday for November. Shosman's on 310. Will he be forced to play, or is he just going to ride it out for a medal? Mike Fletcher 286, and then we've got John Hurahan's excellent win puts him now up into 4th overall with 156, number 2 in the November League. Paulie Witt is 148, 5th place, number 1 in the November League. Ali Akbar is now up to 6th, 141.50. He's done well since they rejoined the Tipster League. So Mark Evan, Australia. So we've got Spain, Australia, UK, Ireland. There may be some other countries. If any of you are from another country and you've not ever mentioned it, feel free to tell me. But it's an international leaderboard. Because, John's in Spain, Samar's in Australia. And then, I know between the rest of them, we've got some UK and Ireland representation in there. So that is where we are at for the Tips League. And there are 5 weeks to go. 5 weeks to go. So, it's all to play for, really. I think we had a few good examples in the last couple of weeks of people coming from oblivion to get themselves into that league. So this week, there's only 6 races on ITB Racing. 4 at Newbury, 2 at Newcastle. Make sure you get the right ones at Newcastle because they're not concurrent, so they're not all in a row. 6 races. All interesting enough, actually. There's none of them are like pokey small fields, so none of them are massive fields, but they're all between like 9 to 15 or 9 to 14 runners, so they're interesting enough to play. So it'd be interesting to see what people do. One thing I'll remind you all, 1/2 is the deadline. This week's first race is 1:54, so you've got more time. There was a little bit last week of last minute action, so again, I just want to call out, it is not in the spirit of the game to put something up and then delete it and then put something else in, unless it's a non-runner, fair enough. But there was the first race last week was 1:15, and there was a couple of people, one person in particular, the entry went in at 1:15 for the 1:15 race. So if that is you, just make sure you give yourself plenty of time, because I'm not suggesting anything untoward happened at all, but 30 seconds more and I'd have probably booted out the entry because it was too much on the line. So I can timestamp things, and I do check things, as does Stephen. So I don't think anyone did anything wrong last week, but there was a couple that were quite close to just tipping over the line of putting an entry for a horse after the race had started, which would certainly not be in the spirit. So it didn't happen, but it was quite close, is what I'm saying. So that's Tipster League. If you want to enter, you have to reply to the comment about the Tipster League that I'm going to put on this video. If you've not watched 18 minutes of the video, you don't know that. I know that. And there's also people that think they've done it when they haven't done it. But remarkably, some people like to enter the Tipster League without watching the video. It's like they don't care about what I'm saying. They just want their name in glory somewhere. I mean, how rude. Got to be in it to win it. It's 10 point stake is your total stake. Maximum 3 selections. No decimal points. No doubles. Please write it in the format described, because it helps Stephen and I do all our data-y stuff. We'll see where we get to. But we've got five. This one's last in November, and then there's 4 Saturdays in December. And then last thing I was going to reminisce. Reminisce slightly. I'll reminisce slightly. 700 video being made, going nearly 3 years, albeit had quite a substantial break for new family members joining the world. Just bonkers really to think when I started to where it's got to and how much it's grown, and I've said it lots of times, but probably not recently, but it's just really humbling. Like I didn't know what I would do when I started. I didn't have any aspirational goal to go, well, I get to that certain point. I thought when I started it'd be quite cool to monetize it, and not because I make like loads of money, because I don't. yeah, you need millions of watchers and all that sort of stuff for that. But just the way it's sort of, I'd say, organically grown. Like, I've learned how to do YouTube and stuff, but you know, as people know who watch the channel, I don't ask for likes. I don't ask you to subscribe. You know, sometimes I'll say it's useful to subscribe because then you know when the next video is. But it's never something on my radar to want to do. Like, if you want to like the video, you like the video. If you don't like the video, you don't like the video. When people do like it, I really appreciate it because it gives me a bit of an indication to sort of see what percent of people actually enjoy watching the content. And clearly there's going to be people that, you know, when you lose, they dislike it, and when you win, they like it. But, you know, other people are here for the incredibly witty banter that occasionally pops out of my mouth. But when I started it, I kind of, it was all about trying to show people there was a different way, and not just backing all the favourites or all from 1 yard or you know, right, it's the ground's bad, so you need just heavy horses that like heavy ground, or there's a draw by, so we'll all just go for the horses in the first 3 stalls. I'm not about that. I'm about trying to find value, and you find value in all sorts of different ways. But the fundamental point is knowing the market well enough to know what might happen in the market, and knowing how to read form well enough to know whether you've got something that basically is priced up wrong. Sometimes that's priced up wrong, even when, like, you know, the market doesn't move. A lot of the times on what I do, the market does move. Saturdays don't move as much. So if you take the example of what I'm putting out on this Saturday, I think that 100 to 1 shot, I don't know what it will do. It should by rights absolutely shorten up, but I wouldn't be surprised if it didn't. And as for the others, it's Saturday and the markets have been live on those 3 races for a couple of days, so I don't think they'll do much. But on other days, I think they'll shorten up. But so those are examples of horses where I think they are overpriced for their chance of performing, but I don't necessarily think the market's going to react in any particular way to them. But yeah, it was just a bit of a let's see if people want to watch somebody putting out loads of multiples, on big prices, because most people tell you multiples don't work. I've told you plenty of times I think they do. I think the results show that they do work long term. I know I do half and half a bit at the moment, singles and multiples, but since I've been back, there's been a profit margin on the multiples, and there's been a slight loss on the singles since I've been back. I mean, a strike rate's been really low, which has hampered that, but I make off the channel, make money, more of it percentage wise, off doing multiples, but it's long term. You know, you can't judge it on a month, 2 months. You've got to judge it over a really, really long term. So yeah, it's not that I necessarily think you can't win doing shorties. I just think that's what everyone else seems to be trying to do, and debating which of the 2 to 1 joint favourites is going to win is not a game I like playing. I get a lot more satisfaction out of finding a horse at 80 to 1 that's going to go in place. So that's my gig. And yeah, I guess the thing that I'm just bowled over by is people keep watching. Like, even when it's not going well, people keep watching. And every week I make videos, week on week, every single week I make a video, I get more subscribers without asking for it. And yeah, clearly when I have a break and stuff, it took a little dip and stuff. But without asking for things, people still to do it. So there's obviously something I'm doing that people like watching, and I'm just really appreciative of the support that people get. Obviously, it's not going to be for everybody, and because it's so bonkers compared to what a lot of other people do. There's loads of people who will look through the shop window and just think what I'm doing is nuts, and I'm just leading people up a garden path. If you've been here for a long time, you've made your own truth with it. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not. I'm not here to try and defend what I'm doing. I can explain what I'm doing, but I have no need to defend it. No need to get in an argument with anybody about what I'm doing. I just know that this is the way I do stuff, and it works for me, and I'm trying to share bits as I go with other people. And you know, are we going to win millions of pounds doing this? It could happen. You could win the lottery. We could get 4 winners on a ridiculous bet. You know, pretty much for a bet like today's, it would break the bookmaking industry clearly. But so, you know, they're probably not going to let that happen, are they? But there you go. But it's trying to make a long-term profit, and along the way, what we're trying to get is get some of these big wins, get a big cheer, and it's nice. Then the discipline is then to not go crazy after that, and just keep going like a metronome, and just keep doing the same sorts of bets in the same way and you get days like Friday, and you just think you don't want to do it, and there's nothing going on. So yeah, this is my sort of reminiscing ramble, because yeah, I'm super proud. I've made 700 videos, and thousands of people seem to watch it. Hundreds of people seem to follow the bets, and that's what puts a bit of pressure on. And then yeah, like to get to, I think what, like 4,400 subscribers or something like that. Yeah, I'm just a guy in my kitchen making videos about horse racing that I'm passionate about, and trying to do it from a different angle. And it's interesting. I keep an eye on all sorts of stuff that goes on YouTube about different stuff, and I find it interesting, some of these podcasty ones that are out there. There's loads of them that, the jump season, they go bonkers for it. It's amazing how much on YouTube, how much more popular the jump season appears to be compared to the flat season. And some of them are supported by the big brands in racing, and some of them are just individuals doing it. But I guess for me, if I was watching stuff like that, I'd have to be really interested and entertained by the people, or I have to think that person's pretty sharp. And there is just so many people out there, and every one of them has a good day and every one of them has a bad day. But none of these podcasty people keep track of the results very much. There is very few people that I see on YouTube that actually seem to track results and show a profit. And there's clearly people who are doing it for different agendas. So it's not like I'm saying everybody should put a profit and loss in. But then there's people who charge money and do shady profit and losses. And you're just like, come on, like, you can't say I'm not getting into that. I don't need to bother doing that, because if you're watching my channel, then hopefully you know that there's shady folk out there. And some of them shady folk charge money, and some of them are just completely clueless. Like we'll give it the big one, but don't have a clue. So the actual decent ones out there is they're few and far between. It's hard for people to find, and like I said, there's salt of the earth type people who do it, and you go, do you know what? Let's watch them, and if they make me a few quid, brilliant. And then there's actual decent people who, people don't watch their channels, but they make profit. There's a number I've seen over the years of me doing it where they pop on and they make about 10 videos and they make a bit of profit, and then no one watches and they disappear, because it's really hard to get traction. It makes a big difference if you put your face on the video. That's the ultimate thing. Like, for those people who put the face on, you'll get more people to watch you because they're talking to a person and they connect. And if you don't put your face on, you might as well listen to it, in the radio as a podcast. It doesn't need to be YouTube if there's nothing to see. Clearly if people are putting data sheets and stuff, that's interesting, but you also need to have a big screen to look at it. It's hard to see if you're looking at a phone. So yeah, the way to go is to put your face on the screen. But yeah, this year's been hard, I'm not going to lie, as well, because it has. The channel is not made profit this year, and that is not what I ever set out to do. I didn't say I'm guaranteed making profit. I know what I do outside the channel, and trying to convert that into a daily video at a fixed point with fixed prices with generalist markets, it's really, really tricky to do. And that's why most people don't keep profit and loss. And if they say to you, well, I know I'm up in profit and I haven't kept the spreadsheet because I don't need to, because I know I'm winning, crock of shit, innit? Come on, like, if you generally do this properly, right? So I think I've said before, I'd class myself as semi-professional, right? Professional is, for me, that'd be a full-time job and you're making a living. Hobby would be you do it in your spare time and you don't know whether you make money. I'm semi-professional. That's what I'd say. I work. I have a different job doing something completely different. But equally, from a horse racing point of view, if for the amount of time and effort I put in, if I wasn't getting anything out the other side of it like that, then it would be a very, very time-consuming hobby. And it's more than that for me. And it does get frustrating when I can't convert some of that stuff to actually what comes out on the screen. But like I've said, there's and anyone who's made the videos, who's got the right intention, knows the same as I do. It's very, very hard to convert what you might do off the channel into something that is fair, upfront, transparent, and that's why loads of people will always give you it's going to be this bookmaker, this place term, and whatever it might be. When I started, I thought the simplest thing was to use an actual account. That's why I got a Sky Bet account to start the channel. And then after a year, when the Sky Bet account got done, it took a while, but it got done. and then everybody else who was following the channel from the beginning, their Sky Bet accounts got done. Then that sort of I had to change tact a little bit, because actually I thought to start with it would made sense, because what I didn't see anyone else doing was actually, no one else said they had an actual betting account specifically for what they were doing on YouTube, and I thought that was a different way, an interesting way to go. And then it's sort of like the channel's evolved beyond that, and now it takes me a little bit more time, because I've got to go and check Odds Checker before I do every video and go, what's the price here, the price there, what's the fair price, what's achievable on the bet. It does make it more complicated. And I've also then got to think about rule 4s and go, okay, well, it's not just the rule 4 that I had in my original account, it's whatever here is. But, you know, for longer term viewers, you know the game, that if you win at the market, you get restricted, and you lose your accounts, and it does get hard to put bets on. We've talked before, the exchanges are good for singles points, but if you're betting like I like to bet on multiples, can't do that on the exchange. And you generally get even worse place terms that put them on in shops. So you end up having to try all the bookmakers under the sun and do a bit of regeneration, like Doctor Who. All right, just going on, aren't I? Right, I'll stop. Okay, everyone have a good Saturday, and just thank you for the bottom of my heart for all the support for the channel. As I said the other day, I think I'm going to give it the 4 weeks of December. And then I'm planning to have probably a bit of a break, and then I'll just take stock and review really about whether I've got the energy to do what I'm doing, or what's going on, because it takes time, and I'd like to get back to running. That would be good. But I do really enjoy it, and I enjoy the interaction on the channel. I wish I had more time to reply to more comments. That would be a wish. And I'd like to be in profit. That would be great. But for the calendar year. But that's where we are. All right. Thank you very much for everyone who supports the channel. If you write comments, like it, subscribe to it, then fair play to you for following some random bowl guy who says he seems to know something about horses, and yet still puts out complete donkeys, and you follow it, and sometimes they seem to do all right. All right. Thanks very much. That's me signing off. Bye-bye.